I can't begin to tell you how much of an honor it is to have company over tonight. And we always invite company to come over, but this is a special honor because this is the first time actually coming into the space where it's the grown and sexy and the ladies taking bubble baths and all that. It's the Quiet Storm. And I know this brother hasn't experienced that with me, but at the end of the day, we have experienced and enjoyed the enormous amount of work that he has given us over the years. We're talking about a classically trained actor, a man who has won countless awards, NAACP Image Awards to Critics' Choice Awards, and that's just a mere skim surface of it. He's given us so much. Now, look, I have my favorite, probably I have my favorite 3 films that he's been in. One that we all love, that Ava DuVernay did her directorial debut, and that is Selma. And then I love The King of Scotland. And then I enjoyed him in The Butler. But come April 10th, he's going to give us something new. And this is a very, very special week because this week is his birthday week.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's a pleasure to be welcoming Mr. David Oyelowo.
Hello.
How you feel, sir?
I feel great. Thank you for that introduction.
No, that's a small introduction to the enormous amount of work that you've given over the years.
Oh, thank you.
You stepped on and you exposed so many layers of yourself through the characters you have played over the years, and you bring so many strong messages. And of course, this April 10th release is going to be quite interesting in itself. It's called Newborn.
That's right.
I want you to tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, Newborn follows a character I play called Chris Newborn. He's been in solitary confinement for 7 years, having been incarcerated, and he comes out and is trying to rebuild his life with his wife and son. Now, what a lot of people might not know is just how debilitating solitary confinement is. 23 hours a day on your own in a 9x6 cell, lights on all the time. A lot of the time, the people on that ward are mentally incredibly challenged, and there's screaming, there's, you cannot get sleep, you cannot get rest, and studies have shown that after 13 days you're never psychologically quite the same again, having endured solitary confinement. So this guy's done 7 years of it, and so the path back to his family is very challenging.
Let me just reiterate that 7 years of total solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Never in the general population.
No, 7 years. And I interviewed and spent quite a bit of time with a guy called Richard Rosario, who was wrongfully convicted, obviously, of a crime he didn't commit for 20 years, and he was in solitary confinement for 7 years. And this is this is common practice. 80,000 people are in solitary confinement today in America, men, women, and children. I interviewed a guy who was in solitary for a year and a half as a 14-year-old. And it is as widely practiced as that many, tens of thousands of people. And what's so awful about this practice here in America is that it is not a punishment given by the judicial system. It's by prison wardens who decide, you've done me wrong, you've done something wrong, and you can literally throw someone in there and essentially throw away the key.
Now, you often train and prepare thoroughly for your roles.
Correct.
Aside from you speaking to people who have been in it, what kind of approach did you take to it to actually be in the space of a solitary confinement situation?
Well, it's unimaginable, and it's unthinkable. And subjecting myself to being in that kind of isolation, it was clear to me was not going to be enough, because doing that to myself for days, fine, I would really suffer. Years is unthinkable. So I had to rely very heavily on the accounts of others. So I spoke to, as I said, Richard Rosario, Shaka Senkor, who wrote a brilliant book called Righting My Wrongs, who also, over the period of his 19-year incarceration, spent in total 7 years in solitary confinement. It was sort of spread out over that time, but also reading a guy called Albert Woodfox's book Solitary, and he was in solitary confinement for over 40 years.
That's crazy.
Over 40 years, and eventually got released with an admission that he was wrongfully convicted. So just begin to think about how your ability to just be a human being is so compromised by that. But it was very nerve-wracking, because that level of debilitation, to pay proper homage to it, you can't play around. But the beautiful thing, as Richard Rosario explains it to me, his wife stuck by him for those entire 20 years.
Wow.
And that's what kept him on the right side of sanity. He still struggles immensely to this day. Got a $5 million compensation. Has been out for 10 years. But he will tell you, as he told me last week, he is still in solitary in his mind, even though he's been released.
And there's no money that can measure up to balance in that.
No, you are broken in many ways.
Newborn, April 10th.
Yes.
What I love about this is that you hooked up with a brother by the name of Nate Parker.
Correct.
Who actually wrote it.
Yeah, and directed it.
Yeah. And we love his body of work alone.
Yeah,
and then
he's
you
amazing.
guys collabed and created a company called Mansa.
Yeah.
Wonderful collaboration.
Thank you.
Very ingenious.
Thank you.
Purposeful, I'm sure.
Yep.
The purpose of doing this. The purpose of collaborating.
The purpose of doing this is to no longer have to ask permission to tell the stories we want to tell, and to not have to rely on other people to do right by us when it comes to getting those projects out to the audience. So both as actors and directors and producers, we've both made work that we've put a lot of time and effort into. We're both men who are very connected to our communities, our families, our faith, our profession, and we do everything with intention. And often the intention that we put into the work we do is not shared by the people we are hoping are going to do right by that work. And that's not their fault. They have their prejudices, their biases, their bottom lines to keep, and they're not commensurate with what our priorities are. And so it just became evident that the only way to break that cycle of frustration was to build our own. And that's why we built our own streaming platform called Mansa. Which is an AVOD platform. But out of necessity, we turned it into a distribution company as well, which is how we're distributing Newborn. Because what happens in Hollywood is you make a film and then you give it over to a distributor, and they are last money in, first money out. And they have very, very clever ways of keeping you from your money, from your upside. Yeah, they hide it all behind overhead and marketing. They'll claim that they are spending money to put the movie out, and they're not. And there's this dirty phrase in Hollywood called the rolling break even. So every time you go to ask for your money, they go, oh, well, we spent so and so and so and so. And there are literally people who it's their job to keep money away from the people who made the film or the show.
What I like is that AMC Theaters is embracing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're nationwide and pretty good.
There's the biggest exhibitor on the planet when it comes to movie theaters. And I think in some ways they are also frustrated with what's happening within the movie industry. During the pandemic, our viewing habits changed, whereby we were all watching more stuff at home. So it's harder to persuade people to go to the movie theater. But what's really hard is if you only have a film in theaters for a very brief amount of time, and you can very quickly start seeing it on your TV screen, it takes all the FOMO out of it. It means, why am I spending all that money? Why am I leaving my house? Why am I doing the effort to go and watch something, have that communal experience, which I think is really beautiful in the movie theater, when I can so quickly see it at home? So that frustration that the exhibitors are having is why they're partnering with folks like Nate and I to say, no, we still believe in the theatrical experience and we want to support that, which is why we're getting this kind of support from them.
You started acting, doing stage.
Yeah.
What's better, theater in that sense or filming for you at this stage again?
They support each other beautifully.
But it's two dynamics, totally.
Completely different. I mean, I think if you really thought about every great actor, I mean, like generational talent that you love, the chances are that they've spent some time in the theater, whether that be Viola Davis or Denzel Washington or Daniel Day-Lewis or Christian Bale, or they've all paid their dues. And the reason that is, I believe, having done a lot of theater, is you cannot fake it. You know, you cannot hide behind great editing or great music or great marketing or, you know, people selecting your best takes every night. It's a one-off, and the audience is telling you every night if you told them the truth, moment to moment. And that becomes muscle memory. You start to recognize what it is you plus an audience plus a story means. And if you are then able to apply that in the midst of the artifice of making a movie with lights and cameras and all sorts of things going on that are not the truth, but your job is to play the truth, that is why I love doing both, because they complement each other.
Is it tougher doing film because you have to get back into character? I mean, just the same way as you prep for theater.
I would say,
but the audience is not there.
You mean, is it tough? Yeah, the audience isn't there. It depends on the role. You know, like playing Dr. King, or a film I did called Nightingale, or, you know, if you are playing a role like playing Chris Newborn, you pay a price. You know, there are pieces of yourself you leave behind. That can be the case in film. It almost always is the case with theater, because, you know, it's so vulnerable and it's so exposing, and it is an act of service. You know, it's not about how much you're getting paid. It's about how much you're going to serve that story. And I love doing Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the Everest of theater, and boy, it just kicks your butt.
You played
every
Henry
night.
VI.
I played Henry VI.
Yeah.
I recently played Coriolanus at the National Theatre, and I've played Othello in the past. And those are easily some of the hardest things I've done.
Now, I know you're working with a Washington.
Yes.
In this film.
Yes, I am.
And have you played with the senior
Big
Washington?
D? No. I have not had the opportunity, but he's one of my heroes. I mean, he's literally on my Mount Rushmore. I have a painting in my house, and it's Sidney Poitier, Meryl Streep, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Denzel Washington. But you know what? Olivia has the goods, man. It was weird because every now and again she would do a facial expression, and I'd be like, "Whoa, I've seen that before." But I mean, he's just to say, I mean, he's beyond a generational talent at this point. But boy, would I love to get to play with him someday.
You're close.
Well, we'll see, God willing.
David Oyelowo is with us tonight. April 10th, Newborn in all AMC theaters, I would assume.
Nationwide. I've got to give props to AMC for believing in us. They saw the film and they said we want to put this out through the entire country, and that's just huge for an independent film that is both entertaining and about something, which is also why Nate and I did this, because when it comes to centering the things that are meaningful to us specifically as a people, but universally therefore, it can sort of get second guessed. And I don't think that consternation or apprehension is shared by the audience. I genuinely don't. Fear is a very, very bad decision maker. Yeah. And the industry that I'm a part of, unfortunately, is a run on a lot of fear. I don't think that fear is shared by the audience.
You faced a challenge when you were selected to play Dr. King. How big of, I'm not going to say scared by no means, because you had a lot of experience leading up to that moment, but that moment you knew was going to be impactful. Yeah. Among many ways. Yeah. Did you find it challenging once you actually got into it?
The challenging thing was getting that film made, and it eroded my fear about playing the role. I first read that script in 2007, and the initial director rejected me when I auditioned for him. And it wasn't until the script landed several years later in Lee Daniels' lap that I auditioned for him and got cast, but we still couldn't get the film made. And by then I was attached, and I had done a film called Middle of Nowhere with Ava DuVernay, and I felt very strongly that she was the person to direct this film. So I ended up bringing her onto the film. and then bringing Oprah onto the film as well as a producer, because I had played her son in the film The Butler. And that was a 7-year journey to get to the point of first reading the script to getting to do I put weight on twice to play the role, and the film fell apart. So by the time we were actually shooting it, I'd kind of forgotten about what a pressure it was to play the role, because of how much pressure and challenge we have overcome to even get to shooting the role. And I remember the first time I went, oh, who the hell do I think I am playing Dr. King? And it was at the first screening of the film at the AFI Film Festival in November of 2014. And I went, I'm playing Dr. King in a movie.
Yes.
And that was the first time I went, oh. But I'm glad I got distracted by how hard it was to get the movie made, because I think it may have been debilitating enough that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do it as well as I could.
But you had good practice leading into it.
Boy, I had. You know what was so beautiful as well is that from the first time I auditioned for it to when I got to play it, I went on to do a run of films that gave me the education I needed to play that role, which, you know, if I had got it at the time I really wanted it, and that film had gone, I just wouldn't have done Lincoln, where I played a Unionist soldier. I wouldn't have done The Butler, where I played the son of the butler at the White House, and the years of civil rights and black history that was chronicled in that film. I wouldn't have done Red Tails, where I met Nate Parker 17 years earlier. I wouldn't have done The Help and what that film chronicled. All of those films, all of that research to play those roles went into eventually playing Dr. King. So it did happen at the right time.
And you're saying an underlying message to promising actors and people who are just pursuing a career.
Yeah.
And that underlying point that you're trying to make.
Yeah.
About not giving up, about being patient, about letting it play out. Because we're all impatient.
Absolutely.
When we want something instantaneously.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of world that we live in.
Yeah.
Your learning experiences and the lessons that you taught yourself to be patient and balance and wait.
Yeah.
Did you go through that? Did you have that balance at that time, or you looking back at it now and saying it was purposeful that you went through that to get to where you are?
Absolutely not. I was incredibly impatient. I wanted everything right then and right now. And you know, people often ask that question: what would you have told your younger self? And I would absolutely say, it's going to be okay. Just be patient.
Younger self's not paying attention to that. You know that, right?
Oh, I know. But, you know, the amount of worry and concern I subjected myself to because I wanted it all right then and there. But I think, you know, and this is talking to young actors now, the career you actually want is a slow burn career. You know, if it happens fast, it can end fast and often does end fast. But what you really want to aim for is a body of work, not a piece of work that means you blow up. And because more often than not, if people see too much of you too quickly, they get tired and they move on. But if you become synonymous with excellence, even if the film isn't great or the TV show isn't great, but you are synonymous with excellence, people will always show up for you. And that tends to be what happens when you take it slow, when you make choices that are not the sexy choice or the choice that, you know, your agents want. I mean, literally, when I read the script for Middle of Nowhere to work with Ava DuVernay the first time, we made that film for $250,000, which is nothing. And my agents said to me, "This is not the kind of film you want to be seen doing." And the concept was, you know, if you start doing these small movies, people are going to think you're a small actor.
Deep.
But I would not have been around who I consider to be the greatest, at the very least, one of the greatest directors I've ever worked with. And I've worked with Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan and, you know, a plethora of directors. And easily she's up there with those people. But at the time, she wasn't on their map. And so she was someone I was being advised not to work with. But I read that script and it reminded me of early Spike Lee. It reminded me of She's Gotta Have It and Do the Right Thing. And I just thought, this is why I became an actor. And it's the money will come. I need to be in the orbit of this woman. And she went on from that $250,000 movie. We made Selma for $22 million. And then she went on to do Wrinkle in Time for $100 million. They're not saying that about her now.
At all.
And so, that's the slow burn.
David Oyelowo is with us. Look, before I let you get out of here, how challenging and how wonderful it was to work opposite of Forest Whitaker. Tell me a moment.
Yeah, well, you talked about The Last King of Scotland and you talked about The Butler. I did both of those films with him, and the transcendent talent of that man is exhibited in both of those roles. He stayed in character the whole time for The Butler, which is where I got the blueprint of how to play Dr. King in Selma, seeing that level of dedication. But he was playing a Ugandan dictator. So being around him was not fun. I will tell you that right now. But then getting to play his son in The Butler, where he's this mild-mannered butler, that was a lot better. I preferred that. I preferred being around Forrest in that way. But both a level of dedication, a level of determination of telling the truth. I've seen it in Daniel Day-Lewis, who I worked with in Lincoln. I've seen it playing opposite Tom Cruise. I've seen it in Forest Whitaker. I'm sure there have been others I've worked with, but those three really stand out as the price you pay for that level of greatness. The dedication is just off the charts.
You're approaching that level if you're not there already, that level of greatness.
Well, I aspire to it, and it's why I feel so blessed to have been around it, because I now know what it looks like. I now know what it costs to have that. And it costs, I wouldn't say more than people assume, but it's different than what people assume. What we do, when done well, looks easy, and it is not.
Yeah.
It just isn't. That level of truth, with that level of pressure, that level of vulnerability, it costs. And I've seen those guys up close pay a price. And it's a price I'm prepared to pay, which is why I'm very judicious with what I choose to do, because I know if anything I do, I'm all in. And that was absolutely the case playing Chris Newborn in this film. And, not only do I pay a price, but I have a wife and 4 kids, and, that stuff sticks on you for a while. And
Sure
so, you got to be careful how you pick.
Well, look, this is a very big week for you.
Yeah.
Because it's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
What are you doing for your birthday?
My wife and I, we take turns on throwing each other's birthdays. So
really?
I've been shooting in the Canary Islands. I just flew in from there yesterday. So I'm going to go to LA tomorrow to be there for my birthday before I fly back next week. So I have no idea what's happening.
She's planning everything.
She's planning the whole thing. And I do the same for her when it's her birthday. So, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Well, you're going to have a great birthday gift, because we're all going to go out and support the film.
Oh, bless
April
you.
10th, Newborn, and in AMC Theaters.
That's right.
David Oyelowo, a pleasure. Now, don't let this be the last time you come into the Quiet Storm.
It will not be. This has been wonderful.
The pleasure's been mine.
Thank you.